See, in my reckoning, I'm a business reporter, but I've also covered the political economy for 2 decades. And in 2014, when you went there was not one glass ceiling. I would say there were multiple ceilings that tried to work against you. In 2019, you broke those ceilings and you broke them very, very convincingly further. What was that make or break moment when you broke away from that old mold in a family borough?
I think that I was not sent to Amethi to contest that election because I was the female candidate. I was dispatched to Amethi because I was the best candidate to give that family a run for the money. And why I say this is because when there is a victory or a defeat, we suddenly start looking at the substance called gender. But we need to recognize today that gender is not the only qualifier for every woman who succeeds. Or for that matter, disqualification for every woman who doesn't succeed. And that is why I said, can you define power? Because our perspective towards power is so myopic that we look upon it from a perspective of position, from a perspective of bank balance, from a perspective of what assets we have. I think a woman is truly powerful when she knows her own aptitude, when she knows the realm in which she wants to leverage her capacities, and when she takes a decision for herself. That is power. Because many a times, women are burdened when they are in a position of decision making as to how that decision affects everybody else first, before she thinks upon herself as a cause and effect situation. So for me, power is when you have the audacity to take a decision because that decision best suits you, without bothering about how you will be judged. And that is why I said, power, if this is how you define it, then every woman who's conscientious, every woman who's conscious of her own capacity, and every woman who knows that there is a cost to pay for being abrasive enough to be just herself, she is a powerful woman. The biggest, I think, disservice we do to women across all communities is when we define her power, again, from a perspective of a corporate position, a bank balance, or her status due to a relationship. The minute you say a woman who takes decisions for herself and is not apologetic about it, that woman for me is a powerful woman.
India is a society and an economy of many layers. How many women in India actually know about their true power?
I have done this before, and you have been a partner in crime in those conversations that we have had across the country, where we have had a conversation with women professionals, CEOs, CFOs, those who own businesses. And the question that I've asked them is, how many of you with great paychecks last balanced your own books? How many of you made your own decision to buy a house without consulting anybody else, or were dominant in that decision making within your family structure? How many of you take a decision to buy, let's say, a stock and do not have to ask somebody else, not in terms of permission, but even refer to somebody else, compared to the men in your family who would not bother and ask you which stock to invest in, which mutual fund is looking very, very enticing? How many of you are in that capacity? And I was a bit overwhelmed, where irrespective of how well such women were doing professionally, these were the decisions that they were not making, which means that there is a difference between creating wealth and controlling wealth.
There's also another question that you have asked audiences in the past, and I want you to ask that question once again. It is about wills. Could you please...
No, I think this is the BT audience. So here we have the wealth creators, the wealth controllers, and like Zia said in the last session, if you're not one of those who facilitate such creation within a corporate organization, the best is to ensure that there is a fiscal penalty for it.
But I will still get the audience to do a show of hands here. This is a question that Smriti Irani ji has asked of audiences in the past, how many of you, the ladies here, have actually gotten their husbands to write a will and have actually seen it in terms of what is going to happen? Actually, okay.
Not many. Let's be honest. Parsis are disqualified from this because they tend to get abrasive easily. But I think that the fact that there were a very few hands which went up, this is a very difficult conversation for any woman to have in a family unit. The fact whether the male partner has made a will, how much is the insurance money, those are conversations if the women in the family start having. The first question that is societally posed is, "Arey, तुम मरने का इंतजार कर रहे हो?" Not that you need to plan, because we have known of many a women who have belonged to many and esteemed families, suddenly left adrift because this planning was not done for themselves and for the children that they are to look after. And even if they don't have children, to just look after their own business interests. So I think that these are the uncomfortable conversations that need to be had, because these are conversations that protect families, not only individuals. And till such time we do not make these conversations comfortable in our own family drawing rooms, I don't think we can speak about complete empowerment or emancipation. And I believe that it begins from the teenage life of a young girl. When you talk about financial literacy, and Arundhati ji is here somewhere in the room. When you talk about financial literacy, there was a time where financial literacy was knowing about what is the banking system. I think we've gone way beyond that. Now is the time not only to teach about mutual funds, not only to teach about the stock exchange, but also how many of us educate young girls to say that your first ambition should be to buy your own house, to create a capital asset by the time, let's say, you're 25. So if those aspects become a part of our financial literacy engagements, including make a will, including how do you approach the issue of insurance, which includes not only personal insurance, insurance for your family, insurance for your business. I think that those are the aspects that need greater reflection and conversation around.
India is the startup capital of the world, but my question is not a question for the boardroom audience. Are homemakers not powerful women?
They are, but I think that if you tell me that how I am as a homemaker needs to be quantified financially, that means you will tell me whether my love is good enough as a mother to tell me how many rupees should it be slotted under. So there is a different opinion I have on this particular issue. When we say let's quantify what is the contribution of a homemaker, let's quantify how much monetary value can you attach to the love a wife has for a husband. Let's quantify how much money is good enough for you to be denoted as a good mother or a bad mother. So I think that those concepts which have been, let's say, discussed in Europe may not be concepts which are acceptable to women here. If I am admonishing my child, क्या आप वो पैसा भत्ता काट लोगे? No, those are the complications that you need to address. But when you look at the latent talent, you're talking about the startup ecosystem, you're talking about, let's say, unicorns. Those are very progressive economic initiatives. But let's look at the base of women that we have today and how are they economically franchised. You have over 400 million women today in our country who are in the age group of the workforce, out of which 300 million women are in the unorganized segment. But when we look at even the organized segment, and I was listening to the panel just before mine, what are the 2-3 challenges that we have? Apart from the fact that we are looking at boardrooms, one of the issues that we need to look at is what are the negotiating skills that we teach young women when they get into a corporate entity?
टाइमिंग की बात करते हैं तो बहुत सारे लोग टाइमिंग, किसी भी एक्शन को टाइमिंग से जोड़ते हैं। कि ये फेयर था या नहीं फेयर था। जैसे मान लीजिए BBC ने सरकार के खिलाफ कोई डॉक्यूमेंट्री दिखा दी, तो कुछ हफ्तों के बाद उनके ऊपर IT की कार्रवाई हो गई।
नहीं, मैं तो डॉक्यूमेंट्री के टाइमिंग पर सवाल उठाता हूँ। ये पूरी घटना 2002 की है, चुनाव है 2024 में, आप 2023 में देखा, तो आप इसके टाइमिंग की क्यों बात नहीं कर रहे हो भाई? और जहां तक ये इनकम टैक्स के टाइमिंग की बात है, मैंने भी पूछा किसी को, ये 3 साल से इनके साथ कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंस हो रहा है। अब कोई अपने आप को कानून से ऊपर मानेगा तो कोई नहीं है कानून के ऊपर, सबने कानून के हिसाब से चलना पड़ेगा और आगे बढ़ना पड़ेगा।
Arnab, after Jio's telecom price wars, what's the Reliance game plan in the FMCG space?
Given the kind of action that is happening in the market, because Reliance has already invested over $1.1 billion in acquisition of brands and partnerships as per a recent report, and it is expected by Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan that it is going to invest another $4 billion in over the next 3 to 5 years, which is equivalent to 33,000 crore in today's currency terms. So that is a significant investment that they are making in the market. Competitors in the market, like other leading players, FMCG players, are obviously taking note. Like for example, very recently, Mr. Varun Bedi has said that he is closely watching the development that Reliance and the new products that are coming up from the behemoth. And secondly, if you look at the Reliance's game plan, they have not only purchased new brands or launched new products, but they have also hired some of the key industry veterans. Like for example, they have hired Mr. K. Krishnakumar to head their beverages portfolio, which now includes Campa Cola, a well-known brand from 1970s and 80s. So, of course, industry competitors like HUL and others are obviously